Good afternoon, Tesla fans. Aaron Rath here with Ratz Tesla, and we've got another install video today. It's something that I've been putting off installing. I just got it, but I've been putting off doing it because I wasn't sure if I wanted to or not. But after seeing a bunch of other people with them on there, I like how it looks, so I decided to do it. So we're going to do that in this video, so make sure you stick around and check out the rest of this video. Thanks for watching Ratz Tesla. Okay, as I stated earlier, we're going to be putting something in that I've been putting off, and that's a screen rotation. This is the version 2 from Hanshow, and this allows the screen to rotate 30 degrees either way, this way or 15 degrees up and down. So if you've got glare on your screen at any point, this will take care of it. Comes in a really nice box with magnet there. So we open the box up. We've got our instructions on how to install this. We've got inside the box, we've got the swivel mount that will be swiveling the screen on afterwards, and then plastic pieces to make it look OEM. We've got a bag full of tools and a couple bolts and screws in here as well. We'll set that aside. You see in here we've got a couple new bolts that we'll use during the installation, a plate that goes on, and then in here is 2 different pieces as I open this up. So inside this bag is 2 different pieces. Well, there's 3 pieces. This one we'll use later, but there's 2 pieces that look very similar. This one that has the holes in it like this is for a 2021 Model Y or newer, so a 2021 or a 2022 Model Y, and this is for the temperature sensor. We'll mount that in here. If you have a Model 3 or older Model Y, the 2020 Model Y, you're going to use this bracket or this plate to mount your temperature sensor in. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. We'll set this whole box to the side, and we'll get our camera set up here so that we can get going on this install. So I got to get out my reading glasses as we look at this instructions here. So the first thing we have to do is we have to go into our little bag of goodies here, and we have to get out our little pry tool. So underneath here, you'll see right here is a spot where we can pry. So we're going to pry on this, and you can see it kind of popping apart as I pry on it. You got to pop it in there. So what you have to do when you get in there is just kind of give it a twist, and that will pop it open. But when you take this down, you want to be very careful because it's hooked to the temperature sensor. So we're going to squeeze this wires here and kind of disconnect it. So in here, there's a little tab that you're going to squeeze on, and that's going to pop these wires out. We're just going to leave this hang here. This is for the temperature sensor. And now on this, we will take the temperature sensor out with a little Torx bit. And it came in our little baggie kit here. We get a fancy little wrench here that has a couple sizes torque bits on it, if I can get it out of there. So you see it's got a smaller Torx and a bigger Torx. So I'm guessing that the smaller one should take this out. I'm going to set you down real quick and get that done. The little Torx screw that's in there is not either one of them that comes in this kit, so I got to go get a Torx bit. So got a Torx bit. It is a T20 Torx bit. So with the little driver here, we're going to take these couple screws aside, take them out, and we'll set the temperature sensor aside. Don't want to lose these screws. We're just going to take those. Once that's done, we'll set this aside and we'll take this bracket and we'll save it for later. We'll put it back in the box. But you can see this temperature sensor has the inlet here, and on the older Model Y and 3, it has more of a probe type item. So that's why the different screen. So if we look, now if we take this new screen here and we look at it, we kind of set this over, there's only one way it can go in there. You see this way the holes don't line up, but if we flip it over, the holes line up, and we can use the same screws to screw this back in. And then we can set this aside. This is kind of just something we'll need later on to finish this whole installation up. So we'll screw both of these in. Like I said, there's only one way that this can go in, so you just want to be careful and get it in there the right way. You don't want to over tighten it. This is all plastic. Now we're just going to set this aside. We'll use it later. So now on my setup, I have a couple other things I need to do. I need to take my radar detector off and unplug it and just kind of set that cable down to the side. We'll set our radar detector up here. And then, and we'll just, yeah, we'll go from there. So the next step is loosening, or is taking the screen off from underneath. There are 2 screws that fix this harness bracket up underneath here. So if we look at these, if we look up underneath here, you'll see a couple bolts. You'll see one over on this side, and then there's one over on this side as well. And those are 10mm bolts. So we'll get those out, and then that should allow us to drop the screen down. So the kit comes with a little wrench to take these off, but I highly recommend using something different because it's very hard to get in there, and it'll make it extremely hard to get this out. So I have this, and I just put a 10mm on there, and I'm able to get it in there and get both of these screws or bolts undone, and they're on there very tight. So keep that in mind. So yeah, I broke that little wrench, so I'm just going to use a socket with a 10mm on there, and that'll allow me to get up underneath there and get better pressure on it to get this off. Now you want to be careful because you don't want to necessarily pull these out right away all the way, because there's something else you want to make sure you take care of before you do that. So I kind of just got them so they're just finger tight, and then I can come in here and use this little socket and pull these out. So now before you take this completely out, I highly recommend that you put down some towels, microfiber cloths, to lay the screen on, because you're gonna have to lay the screen down. And I also suggest you go into safety and power off your screen. Now remember, the screen is pressure sensitive to the driver's seat. So that's why I'm doing this from the passenger seat, because I can bounce around. Well, I was wrong there. So it's pressure sensitive to both seats. So you've got to be very careful. As you can see, the screen came back on, and we're still fighting with this stupid bolt. So there's the second bolt. You can see I had to kind of wiggle the screen a little bit to get it out. So we're going to set that underneath in the cup holder, take the wrenches aside, then we're going to go back into safety and power this off, and be very careful not to get up out of the seat. And now this should just wiggle and pop loose, and when it does, you're going to want to lay it down. Now I also need to take the little cable off of the back of my charger that I have here on the side. So there's the screen, and you can see that it's long enough to lay down. That's why I put this cloth, this nice towel underneath it. So our next step we're going to do is underneath here, in there are two Torx screws. We're going to take those out real quick. And those should be one of these Torx bits on this little wrench that came with the kit. So this Torx wrench that comes with the kit, both ends are the same. So you can see I can have this in there, kind of just unwind that screw. Once those are loose, this will pop up and both of those screws will pop out, and those just look like this. So we're just going to set those aside for now. Now the next thing we got to do is to unplug this from underneath here. So you'll see on the plug here, it's got this white covering. We just need to take that covering and just kind of slide it up. You should be able to just pull your fingers, pull it apart a little bit, and slide that up. So there you can see, once you get it loose, you just kind of slide it up here out of the way. And then this purple plug has a little tab down here. You just want to push in on that tab and pull up on the plug, and that'll unplug your screen. Now you can pull this one aside and again set it aside. Now, once you have all of that done, then we're going to take the new rotating bracket and we're going to put that in. But we need to make sure that we can spin this a little bit, because you're gonna have to spin it to be able to put the new bolts in. So this just slides in right in there. It can only go in one way, so you can't mess it up. And then we're gonna go back to, and we're gonna use these same 10mm bolts that we had in there before. You just gotta kind of shimmy one side out of the way. After you drop your bolt, shimmy the one side out of the way, line up the holes, and finger tighten it for now. We're not going to completely tighten it until we get the other side in. So once you have that one finger tight, then we're going to grip it and move it out of the way. And then we'll kind of shimmy that one. That one needed to be moved down a little bit. Get those in place, and we'll get our same 10mm wrench and tighten these bad boys up. Now you want to go pretty snug on these, because I mean, this is what's holding your screen in place, right? So you want to make sure that you don't that the screen doesn't have anywhere to go. So once you get that one side tightened, just switch that and come back over to this other side. But as I was saying, you don't want to over tighten it. I mean, this is metal that you're going into, but you don't want to leave it so loose that at some point it could rattle and shake itself loose. So you want to make it pretty snug on there. Once you have that done, we're going to bring this piece back to center. Now that feels pretty tight, but once you get the screen on there mounted, it will rotate a lot easier. So now we have to take a couple pieces here that are in the box. Now first one is, we're going to take this bracket and we're just going to okay, so once you've got this piece in place, you're going to take this other bracket. You want to make sure that you run your cables through it, and we're going to go ahead and put the cable through there and then plug the screen back in, and you'll see there's really only one way the screen can be plugged in. It's a round connector, and it can only be plugged in one way. So we'll make sure it gets plugged in right. Just kind of push it down, lock it in place. Then we'll get our little lock thing on here. Make sure that's all facing the right way and push that down. And then we want this piece on here. And you'll see it can only go on one way. It can't go on this way. It doesn't line up along here on the bottom. So if we flip this around, you'll notice that it lines up. So it's curved on the one side and not on the other. So once that's in place, then we just got to screw it back down. I'm going to use those same screws to put this one on. Don't tighten the first one all the way down because you want to make sure that you have a little bit of wiggle room to be able to move the bracket and get this other one installed. Once you get both of them going, then you can tighten these down. Now, the one thing that's really important is you really want to make sure that this bracket here is tight enough, but not too tight, because once you get this on, once you put this on and bolt it in place, the only way to loosen this up is to take the bottom two bolts out. But now we're at a point where we're just going to take this and it just kind of slides on that new bracket. We're going to grab these new bolts out of the box and they'll go underneath using this that came in the kit. So now you can see our bolts are nice and tight. The only thing left to do is to get our temperature sensor reinstalled. So we're going to take the plug and plug it in the back here until it clicks. Once it clicks in place, then this will push that cable up out of the way. Then this temperature sensor, in one way, you got to put it all the way to the top and then just kind of slide it down into place. All right, so then once you get the temperature sensor in, it just sits down there. And now the screen does all the fancy tilting. It goes 30 degrees either way this way, and it goes up and down this way. So we can get it back, get it where we like it. We'll tuck this out of the way. Now the only thing I'm gonna have to deal with, and you might not unless you have your radar detector mounted like mine, is when I turn this, my radar detector's pointing in the wrong direction. So I'll just have to make an adjustment to my radar detector. But that is pretty stinking slick. All right, so that'll do it for today's video. A little bit longer than I wanted, but we got it installed. And so you can check out this kit on Hanshow, get your own by going to Hanshow, go to their website. I'll have it linked down below to their website. Also make sure that you use my discount code RATSTESLA at checkout, and that'll save you some money as well. You can get a ton of stuff from Hanshow. Make sure you check out their website. The discount code is for everything on the site, not just for the swivel screen. But that'll do it for today's video. As always, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell button, hit the like, and drop a comment below. And we'll check you guys out in the next video.